Welcome, CMA Part 2 candidates. Let's just jump right into today's explainer. We're going to be tackling the operating cycle, which is an absolutely crucial working capital concept you need to master for your exam. Now, if you've ever felt a bit overwhelmed by activity ratios, hey, don't sweat it. We're going to break this down so it sticks perfectly in your memory for test day.
So here's our game plan for today. We'll start by defining the operating cycle, walk through the four-step cycle, and look at some industry comparisons. Then we'll run through a scenario on shortening the cycle, highlight a major CMA exam trap you need to avoid, and wrap up with working capital and performance.
All right, let's kick things off with Section 1, defining the operating cycle.
Fundamentally, you can think of this as a timeline. The operating cycle measures the exact amount of time that passes between acquiring inventory and finally collecting the cash on the sale of that inventory. It's kind of like a stopwatch that starts ticking the second goods arrive at your warehouse, and it doesn't stop until the customer's cash actually hits your bank account. It tells you exactly how long your working capital is tied up in the day-to-day operations of the business. Now, the math you need to memorize for the exam is incredibly straightforward. To calculate the operating cycle, you just take your days sales outstanding and receivables and add your days sales and inventory. Literally, that's it. You're just looking at two major non-cash assets being converted into cash.
When we actually map that formula out, it's really easy to see how it works. Let's say we have a total operating cycle of 41.5 days. That's split right into its core components, 17.6 days of sales tied up in inventory, plus 23.9 days of sales outstanding and receivables. Breaking it down like a timeline really shows how these periods just stack right on top of each other to create your total cycle.
Moving on to Section 2, the four-step cycle.
So this is the chronological journey of your working capital. Step 1, you purchase the inventory, and boom, the clock starts. Step 2, you hold on to it until you finally sell that inventory. Step 3, unless they pay cash up front, you record a receivable. And finally, Step 4, you wait out those credit terms until you collect the cash. The chunk of time between Steps 1 and 2, that's your days sales and inventory. And the time between 3 and 4 is your days sales outstanding. Smushed together, they form your complete cycle.
Next up, Section 3, industry operating cycle comparisons.
Now keep in mind that you can never judge an operating cycle in a vacuum. You always have to use the industry norm as your benchmark. For example, spoilable goods mandate really rapid turnover. A grocery store selling meat and dairy, they might have an operating cycle of just 2 or 3 weeks. They buy the inventory, sell it fast, and collect the cash right away. But on the flip side, a jewelry store might hold on to a diamond necklace for months, which stretches their cycle to well over a year.
Let's look at Section 4, a scenario on shortening the cycle.
Okay, let's compare a prior year to a current year. Notice that the days sales and inventory actually went up from 15.6 days to 17.6 days. At first glance, you might think, uh-oh, they're holding inventory longer, that's poor management. But wait, look closely at the receivables. Their days sales outstanding dropped significantly, from 28.7 down to 23.9 days. That means they got way faster at collecting money from their customers. And because of that super fast collection, the company still successfully reduced its total operating cycle down to 41.5 days. Back in the prior year, it was 44.3 days. So the big takeaway here is that even if one metric, like your inventory days, slips a little bit, which, by the way, is totally common during periods of growing sales, aggressive improvements in your collection practices can still shorten the overall operating cycle, and that frees up your working capital a lot faster.
All right, pay close attention to Section 5. The CMA exam trap.
Okay, picture this. You're staring down a multiple-choice question on test day, and it's incredibly tempting to think that accounts payable must factor into the operating cycle. I mean, paying your suppliers is a massive component of working capital management, right? So, do payables affect the operating cycle formula?
The answer is absolutely not. Please, whatever you do, do not fall for this trap. Payables belong to the cash cycle, not the operating cycle. The operating cycle strictly looks at how fast you turn your non-cash assets, meaning inventory and receivables, into cash. Now, if an exam question asks for the cash cycle, then yes, sure, you take the operating cycle and you subtract the days purchases and accounts payable. But if they just ask for the operating cycle, ignore the payables data entirely. It's just a distractor trying to trip you up.
Finally, let's wrap up with Section 6, working capital and performance.
So why do financial analysts care so much about this metric anyway? Well, understanding this cycle lets managers pinpoint exactly where working capital is stagnating. If the cycle is too long, management can isolate the problem. Is the inventory turnover ratio too low? Are we carrying obsolete stock? Or are we just giving customers way too much time to pay? Breaking the cycle down into its two components lets you target those specific weak areas for immediate improvement.
Ultimately, remember that activity ratios measure how quickly non-cash assets are converted to cash. When you're evaluating a firm, ask yourself, if an operating cycle is lengthening, where exactly is the fundamental flaw? Is it sitting in the warehouse, or is it stuck in the billing department? But I'll leave you with this final thought to ponder. If a company pushes its operating cycle to be too short, at what point does aggressive collection damage customer relationships or risk catastrophic stockouts? Keep that delicate balance in mind as you prep for your exam.